Shalom everybody, this is Sapore Bream, and I just wanted to do a brief video for January 31st. For most of the world, actually, this is New Year's Eve, and we know that, or in case you don't know, which is why I'm doing this video, is that basically this is yet another pagan holiday, and for us who are Messianic TIs, who are victims of gang-stalking, witch-stalking, this is one of those traps that we need to avoid, because as I mentioned in the previous two videos that I did around Christmas, what happens for us is when we allow ourselves to participate in pagan holidays and pagan rituals and have pagan trappings in our homes, what we are doing is basically opening the door. We're throwing open the door to our house. And by house, I mean a metaphor for our life, for our lives. We're throwing open the door, and we are allowing those witches, those demons, all of the snares, all of the enchantments, all of the curses, all of the darts, the fiery darts that they are throwing at us, we're allowing them to come in, because that is walking into their playground. That's playing in their sandbox. And as I've said before, that old saying, a lot of us know it and probably have even said it at some point in our lives: my house, my rules, my playground, my rules, my sandbox, my rules. And so what we want to do is especially if you're tired of being a victim of gang-stalking, witch-stalking, if you're tired of these people having the means to come in and walk through your dreams and give you horrible nightmares, or to try to do spiritual exchanges and steal your talents, your gifts, set you up with illnesses, set you up with fallback and limitation, and just defeat and backwardness, if you're tired of doing that, then you want to shut down every avenue that they have which makes it possible for them to do this. And one of the avenues that we shut down is participating in pagan practices. And one of those pagan practices is the celebration of New Year's, is the celebration of Christmas, is the celebration of Halloween, is the celebration of Easter, and so forth and so on. We avoid those things because we don't want to give the devil any opening. If you're tired of the stalking, if you're tired of being violated, if you're tired of being set up and just destroyed and set up to be destroyed, that's why I'm doing this video, another one. And again, I myself, I know that I'm not going to be participating in any type of an activity. But if you're in a situation where you can't get out of it and you have to go, say a prayer to the Most High. Just tell him what's going on in your life, and that you ask him to protect you, that you ask him to cover you, to clothe you in spiritual armor, and if you just want to go out, if you just can't be alone, if you don't have anything to do, then choose your places of revelry and entertainment carefully. Choose who you go with, because we, like a lot of other vulnerable groups, well, you know what, I'm going to go so far as to say that I think that we as TIs, we are, or rather as empowered individuals, we are empowered, but we are still in a category where we are perhaps one of the most vulnerable of the targeted groups, of what's the word that I want to use, of those disenfranchised or vulnerable groups that are in our society, because what we're dealing with is touchless in a lot of instances. What we're dealing with is invisible, which is why one of the names for it is touchless torment. They come at us from the shadows, so it's hard for many people to see what it is that we're dealing with. And when we try to bring it to other people's attention, it sounds so out there and so weird and so crazy that they question us, as opposed to looking realistically at what's going on. And we are in all races, we are in both genders, we are in all religious denominations, we are in all political affiliations. And what also makes it harder is that the same members, people who are in the same race that we are, can come at us. That's that horizontal oppression. People within our own gender can come at us. It's a hard situation, and so because of that, we need to really safeguard and protect ourselves. So if you're a person of color, if you're a TI of color, don't think that because, well, I'll just go to a New Year's Eve party where there's only people of color. Hey, come on, what do we already know? People of color within our own community, within our own family, can be some of our perpetrators. Don't think that, well, I'm a female, so I better just, maybe if I just go hang out with a couple of the girls and we just party together. No. What is it? I mean, if you've read through, if you've watched the video that I did with the clip from the interview with Kathy Meadows, one of the things that she talks about, that video is called "When Women Become Gang Stalkers." Okay, and she talks about how detective agencies will use women. They prefer to use women for some of the protocols that their clientele is asking them for, because in their eyes, women won't be as vicious or as disgusting in some of the things that they do. So again, TIs are one of the most vulnerable groups that suffers injustice, that suffers oppression in this society. So be careful if you choose to go out. And again, like I said, with going out to Christmas Eve and Christmas Day celebrations, choose where you go. Make sure you have a way to get home by yourself, if you know, so that you're not dependent on someone else. Set a time. Allow yourself a time that you're not going to be there for, long stretches of time, but just briefly, just make a showing. And also bring your own brew, bring your own drink, bring your own food. Don't eat something behind these people and have them slip something in your drink. We know that this is something that they can do to us and have done to many of us. So literally, you have to protect yourself. That's what I'm saying, and I want to put that out there again, because one of the things that we know that happens with these holidays, especially this set of holidays, not so much with I don't know, Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day, but these winter holidays right here, this is when their spiritual attacks, their spiritual rituals are at the highest level. This is when there are more deaths. This is when there are more violations. So you really, really have to be careful. That's what I'm telling you, and that's why I'm doing this video. Because again, one of the missions of this ministry, artistic ministry .net, is to be a source of inspiration and a source of information for victims of gang stalking, targeted individuals, or empowered individuals. And so I just wanted to put this say this really briefly, and please keep listening. There's going to be I'm going to do put some clips together from a lecture that was given by a minister for it's a church, their organization, I think it's called Yahweh. I want to say it's a Yahweh Reformation Ministries. I'm not sure on the name, but I will put a link to this particular lecture. But it's on the pagan origins of New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, what it is that you're really celebrating. And I'm just doing this to give emphasis to drive home that participating in this is what the Most High, what He basically cautioned us to not do. And I use that word lightly. I say caution, but what it is it's one of His commandments. It's one of the 10 commandments. And let me just read that commandment briefly. It's in Exodus 20, and it's one of the very beginning. Okay, let's start. Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So when you do that, when you go to these events, when you participate in these rituals, as it's going to be explained what some of these rituals are that happens during New Year's Eve celebrations, basically that's serving them. That's how you serve them, is by participating in those events, by eating those foods that are sacrificed to idols, that are having those trappings in your home, the little icons, little tokens. That's serving them. And that is what opens the door for these witches, for these sorcerers, call them whatever you want, to attack you. And so if you don't want to deal with that, if you don't want to go through that, don't participate in these events. Don't eat these foods. You can eat some of those foods at any other time of the year if you want to eat them at any other time of the year. Don't eat them now. Don't go to those parties. Don't do it. But if you have to, take care of yourself. Be careful. Okay, that's what I'm saying. But one other thing, I just wanted to let you know about this. Okay, so there you go. If you get an opportunity, go over to our online store and check out some of the items that we have there. And also stay tuned and just check out this brief clip of the actual sermon that he gives is about, I think it's like 50 minutes, but I've just edited it and taken some clips that should be about maybe at the most 10 minutes or so. But please check that out just to give you some more proof as to the origins of New Year's Eve celebrations. Okay, and with that I say shalom.
New Year's and Christmas have more in common than just coming a week apart. The celebration of the new year is directly related to the old solar worship. Sun worship, as Xmas is, same winter solstice that Christmas honors at the end of December. It all goes back to the same thing, basically. Well, I don't get involved in, this New Year's. I just want to wish people a Happy New Year, some will say. Well, the problem is, it's not the New Year as Yahweh established it. And Yahweh established our week. We go by that, don't we? We don't seem to want to go by his calendar when it establishes the year. New Year's is anything but new. It's fought for its own supremacy through the thousands of years since it was invented. The earliest recorded festivities in honor of the New Year goes back some 4,000 years. Back to ancient Babylon. Babylon seems to be the nexus of everything. Everything goes back to Babylon, which establishes the culture everywhere. Everywhere seems to be influenced by the Babylonian culture itself and its worship. Its apostasies have driven the world's religions and cultures since time began, it seems. As for timing, getting back to the calendar, the Babylonians were even closer to a lot of the other cultures in the correct timing of New Year's. They went by the first new moon following the vernal equinox, the day in late March having an equal amount of sunlight and darkness. So, they at least went by the new moon when they established these things, but they still weren't there all the way. The mark of Scripture was evident even on the pagan religion festival called Akitu. Akitu something, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. A celebration marking the sowing of barley in autumn, believe it or not, and the cutting of barley in spring. Even the Babylonians worshipped a day that talks about, is focused on, related to barley harvest. Amazing. In Babylonian religion, it came to be dedicated to Marduk's victory over Tiamat. Well, in contrast, the Egyptians, the Phoenicians, the Persians, they began their new year at the fall equinox. And the Greeks celebrated at the winter solstice. And that's where we get Xmas and these holidays now in the middle of winter. Now we jump forward to Rome, because that's the latest culture that really influences our calendar today. The early Roman calendar consisted of 10 months and 304 days, believe it or not, with the new year beginning at the vernal equinox, again, from Babylonian influence. As in the Bible, most Roman months were simply numbered. This is fascinating. Starting with March being the first month, I'm going to skip to July because it was called Quintilis, and Quintilis means 5. It was the 5th month. And the Romans called August Sextilis, from sextus meaning 6, September, septem meaning 7, October meaning 8, November, novem meaning 9th, and December, decem meaning the 10th. So they numbered the months just as Yahweh does in the Bible. But then those months got their names through different other ways. The month of January didn't even exist until around 700 BCE. Wasn't even a month. When the second king of Rome added the months January and February. The first time the new year was celebrated on January 1st was in Rome in 153 BCE. 153 BCE. The New Year's Day was moved from March to January. First, in honor of the deity Janus, and second, because it was the beginning of the civil year, the month where Roman politicians began their term. The Roman Republic began in their government a one-year tenure at January 1st. And over the centuries, the monthly calendar fell out of sync with the sun. And in 46 BCE, the Emperor Julius Caesar decided to solve the problem by introducing what became as the Julian calendar, appropriately named after himself, of course, to get them in sync. Because they kept getting off, because, you know, the lunar month, I should say the lunar year, is 11 days different from the solar year. So they had this problem of justifying the two to make them in sync. So now we come to the real interesting stuff. As part of his reform, Caesar instituted January 1st as the first day of the year, partly to honor this month's namesake, Janus, and you're looking at him right now. He had two faces. He looked back at the old year and he looked forward to the new year. The God of beginnings. The Romans celebrated by offering sacrifices to this guy, this deity, exchanging gifts with one another, decorating their homes with laurel branches, and attending raucous parties. Does this sound familiar? What was going on a week ago? Isn't that interesting? All of this celebratory falderall didn't sit well in medieval Europe. Christian leaders temporarily replaced January 1st as the first of the year with March date with its more biblical sanctioning, because even they could see the difference. They could see the difference. March 25th was the date of the church's Feast of the Annunciation. But this pious zeal eventually faded and everything swung back to January 1st. Time, as I said, is the enemy of truth. It's why we must keep our noses in the Scripture to make sure we get our bearings right, to make sure that our gyroscopes are accurate. We got to keep in the Scripture. When you leave Scripture, everything goes kittywampus, and that's the problem today. Churches aren't teaching the truth because they've left the Scriptures. They don't even talk about them. Scriptures alone, it was interested in blazing its own trail. And that included avoiding anything that's Jewish. That's how we got Easter. Look into it. Well, back to the calendar. In designing his Julian calendar, Julius Caesar enlisted the aid of a guy named Sisaginus. He was a Alexandrian, an Egyptian astronomer, who advised him to do away with the lunar cycle entirely and follow the solar year. That's why on your calendar, common calendar on the wall, you see new moon in a black dot. But you also notice it doesn't appear the same place every month. It floats all over the place because it's a solar year, not a lunar year. Yahweh's calendar would have that black dot at number 1, first day, every month, first day, black dot, new moon. Actually, it's got to be visible, but in their way of graphically representing it, that's what it should be. That's what it should be. But it floats all over because of Sisaginus, who wanted a solar calendar, and the year was calculated to be 365 and 1/4 days. So Caesar added 67 days in 47 BCE, also making 46 BC begin on January 1 as the new year, rather than in March. He also decreed that every 4 years a day be added to February, thus theoretically keeping his calendar in sync with the solar year. You don't have to worry about added days and skip days and leap years and all of that they had to do because they manufactured a calendar instead of following Yahweh's calendar. The practice of making resolutions for the new year is thought to have first caught on among the ancient Babylonians, who made promises in order to earn favor of their deities. This is where resolutions really came from. You trace it back. They want to start the year off on the right foot. You got to please your GODs, your deities. You know, their religion was not like our religion, the religion of the Scriptures with Yahweh. Their worship was always in pleasing the mighty ones they worshipped. And that's as far as it went. As long as you satisfied your God, you're fine. Give the right offering, do this or that, you're fine. That was as far as their religion went, these pagans. So they had to mollify this deity, so they have resolutions. I'll do better this year. I'll do this and I'll do that. And then they thought he was happy with them. The Romans did the same thing. They began the resolution by promises to their two-faced Janus god. In the medieval era, the knights took the peacock vow at the end of Christmas season each year to reaffirm their commitment to chivalry. Continuing on in that same vein, you see. What about that ball they dropped in New York, that big old ball? What's that all about? Where did that come from? They do that in Babylon? No. The ball was a symbol of time, and before they really had their act together with wristwatches and all that, they dropped a ball, and you could tell by the drop of the ball what time it was. So at stroke of midnight, the ball falls, and people say, oh, this is the new year now. You know, various towns and cities across America have developed the same idea. They drop something. It's really crazy. Their version of Times Square ritual. The public drops items ranging from pickles in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, to possums in Tallapoosa, Georgia at midnight on New Year's Eve. It's crazy how we pick up customs and continue on with them. What about all this New Year's noise and revelry, you know, blowing the trumpets and the hats and the stuff falling and all that? Where did that come from? Well, that was what they were doing in ancient Mesopotamia. The Mesopotamians worshiped the god Marduk, but they believed that at one time the universe was controlled by Tiamat, a goddess, another one of the deities. It was controlled by her. She was the goddess of chaos. After a violent battle, Marduk defeated Tiamat, and upon destroying the chaos, Tiamat's chaos, he brought order into the universe. So to celebrate this event, it became a ritual that included noise making, you know, and banging things together, and fireworks with the Chinese, by the way, who many of their religious customs come right out of Babylon as well. The mother, you know, Mystery Babylon, the mother religion of the whole world. One day we're gonna leave this world, and then we're gonna do. He's not going to condone our record of New Year's on January 1st, our record of Xmas, our record of Easter. He's going to say, wait a minute, that's not what I told you in the Word. Why did you do that? And they're going to say, well, my church said so. I said, study the Word, prove all things out of the Word. So anyway, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying not to knock anybody, but we're trying to give the truth of the Word. And if you don't have that understanding, it's time to get it. And don't count on what man tells you or what some organization says. Go to the Word and find out. See if we're right. It's important. It's your salvation. So we ask that you would do that.